When I was in my 17s, I was obsessed with subscribing to email newsletters of football clubs, of which most are spam and unchecked mails. This interest in me was driven by a gross misconception. I used to believe that they sent this personally for me, and that made me feel privileged for no reason. But the initial interest in subscribing and reading began to diminish until I had the already subscribed mails to bombard my mailbox, although I don't read them anymore. Then I realized that sending and receiving lots of spam mail adds extra carbon footprint into the atmosphere, because every year about 5 million people die as a result of climate change related deaths. So many lives could be saved by cutting those emissions, since it results in extreme temperature, which accelerates impacts of climate change. So our wrong choices or decisions will make us personally liable for contributing towards it. Here is how we could save 20 million tons of carbon dioxide from being emitted. Intercept, identify and initiate unsubscribing from spam mails. Because every year about 62 trillion spam mails are sent across the world, and this process is powered by a massive 30 billion tons of electricity derived from fossil fuels. And that finally account for about 20 million tons of gross carbon dioxide emission being released into the atmosphere. These are the macromath emissions from spam mails. Now let's delve and take a dive into the micromath emissions of a single mail. A regular email emits about 0.3 grams to 50 grams of carbon dioxide, depending upon the size of the attachment. Aren't these stats staggering? Never had I ever thought about how bad this would be for the environment. So apparently the awareness stage isn't over yet, because we knowingly and unknowingly emits a lot. Also, having a sound email habit can help us increase our time for productivity as well, since surfing through spam mails to filter out irrelevant mails is also a strenuous job to do, since it also results in carbon emission. So unsubscribing from spam mails is good news for you and the planet as well. The fact that mails are sustainably more good than traditional letters doesn't mean that it is carbon neutral. Even the things that we sugarcoat to have fewer impact has also hidden carbon footprint. Here, I'll be using the word carbon footprint as a shorthand to convey the best estimate that we can get out of the full climate change impact of something. Carbon footprint means the total climate change impact of all the greenhouse gas emissions, which includes carbon dioxide to methane emissions to nitrous oxide, which is caused directly and indirectly by an individual item or activity. And it is expressed in terms of the amount of carbon dioxide that would have the same impact. Now let's talk about Organic Growth, a tale about Forest Green Rovers, the world's first carbon neutral football club. There's a green revolution going on there. They started tasting victory in both senses after switching to sustainability and flaunted a perfect blend of sports for climate action philosophy. From jerseys made out of coffee beans to serving plant-based foods to not only the athletes but also the fans as well, thereby inspiring and involving them. Recently, a quarter of the fans have even turned vegan after the club's decision to serve vegan diet. So, a vegan diet cuts short an individual's carbon footprint by 73%. So, this is impact. If a low division club with 10-fold less net worth than maybe Manchester United can do to this extent, then any organization can do this. If the funds and philosophy are properly channelized with sustainable philosophy by entering into partnership with clean energy sources, then they can become a game changer in fighting climate change. Maybe these clubs can join the sustainable race by involving the fans as well, just like the way Forest Green Rovers is doing, because people tend to have more emotional attachment towards these organizations than even the cause itself. So this is a hack effective in amplifying the message on climate change. I'm hailing from a Kerala household, and I really miss the scent and sustainability of the local garden grown flowers during the harvest festival of Onam. As a part of the celebration, people put floral carpets, and nowadays most of the households depend on cut flowers or out of season flowers, which is carbon intensive and made in greenhouses, since emission results from setting up greenhouses by clearing a forest, to artificially creating heat and light, to transportation, to refrigeration, to use of pesticides, all adds up to a gross carbon footprint of up to 2 to 3 kg of carbon dioxide per stump. Let us stick to your own garden, which has a zero carbon footprint, or know the source and buy from local producers. If buying from local producers means an income for them, then that is good news for the ecology and economy as well, right? So it also saves a penny and a planet, since cut flowers are very expensive and environmentally bad as well. Most of you must be chillaxing watching Netflix, right? Then you should know the Stranger Things. In today's world, a carbon neutral life isn't easy, to be frank, because even watching the Netflix series named The Blue Planet will boil the planet if it is connected to the mobile network for streaming, since it is more carbon and energy intensive than Wi-Fi due to the fact that it is more effective to transmit data to the cable internet than through the air. So a switch to Wi-Fi network means less guilt and less carbon footprint. I'm a person who suffers from eco-anxiety, and my eco-anxiety advances when I calculate these maths and being exposed to environmental injustices happening around me. I had a full-blown eco-anxiety and I researched about the anti-environment draft named the Environment Impact Draft Notification 2020. It is events like this which makes us lose hope in the system, since the Environment Ministry is acting ironically by aiding the industrial development than the industrial ministry itself. It affects our mental health as well, since climate emergency is also a mental health emergency. Scenarios like this makes me romanticize or normalize burnouts and to take extra commitments to create awareness and impact. One fine day, I was hanging out with my friends in beach and I intercepted one of my friends from throwing a plastic bottle. He turned out to me and said, "Aditya, this is just a plastic bottle. It does not make much impact." I made him realize that our oceans wouldn't have been polluted with 8 million tons of plastic product. Because when every time someone throws a plastic bottle, they tend to feel it's just one. But this was the exact same thought that 7 billion people had when they threw a plastic bottle. Also recently, a blue whale died as a victim of plastic pollution with 88 pounds of plastic in its stomach. Do you know that? One whale is worth 1,000 trees in carbon cycle. They act as nature's own natural carbon neutralizer by absorbing the excess carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. But they are on the verge of extinction. Who is to be blamed? Act for the planet. Don't wait until it affects you personally. I thought my friend might have felt offended by my insightful words, but thank God, he had that gut and guilt feeling, and he took it in the right sense. He carried the bottle until he found a proper waste bin. A close friend of mine, who knows so much about how anxious I get when I'm exposed to carbon footprint facts, even for minor things, asked me if I'm happy with the current situation of delivering climate awareness through virtual events, because of its reduced carbon footprint, obviously. Since the pandemic has started, it has caused many events to be turned virtual. And it is obvious that the virtual event might be only having 1/4 of the physically held event's carbon footprint. But my dear friends, even for creating awareness, there's a carbon footprint. Although it's an ethical footprint, and since you're educating yourself, and it is high time for that, doesn't mean that you have to neglect it. I'm not condemning sustainably held virtual events, but what I was trying to convey is to change our perspectives on how we understand certain things. And even for good things, there's a carbon footprint. This element of eco-anxiety has made me introspect things from a different angle like this. What I really appreciate about having eco-anxiety is that it helps a guilt feeling arising from an ethical or unethical footprint, which makes us true and accountable to the cause. Only if you realize it, then we can have more vision to understand, amend and neutralize it. So watch your carbon footprint. It is our inborn responsibility to act collectively to combat climate change as an inhabitant of the planet. Let it be blame or responsibility, we are keen on passing it on to the government for climate inaction. With the impacts of climate change getting grievous day by day, with skyrocketing carbon emissions, we can't just expect or rely only on the environmental specific organizations to be on the front lines. Instead, we want the involvement of all the institutional and individual actors. The best time to act on climate change was decades ago, and the second best time is right now. But most of us often love to label ourselves as powerless. We have so much power, but we underrate the power of individual action. So individual action have impacts, and it is implied, both positive and negative impact. Let's make sure that it's a positive one. I have realized the power of individual action, which drives me to take more green resolutions, like a switch to vegan diet, to ditching the consumption of soft drinks since 8 years, to detoxing Netflix since streaming service is steaming the planet, because watching Netflix emits about 0.6 kg of carbon dioxide per hour, to washing the dishes in cold water than lukewarm water since the latter results in 500 grams to 8 kg of carbon dioxide, to living in active WhatsApp groups, because doesn't matter you open the chat or not, you will receive the text, and a text message emits about 0.07 grams of carbon dioxide. So just don't spam, that's it. These resolutions aren't a big deal, right? Anyone can do this, you can do this. The key fundamentals which keeps my activism going on are action, education and resolution. This is how I communicate and convert my eco-anxiety into eco-activism. So when these climate resolutions are collectively done by 7 billion people, it becomes a climate revolution. Hence, climate resolution to climate revolution. Thank you.